Gathered here today, good morning. My name is retired Air Force Colonel Martha Monroe, and I, along with the Veterans Graves Committee member, Captain Patty Bolton and Sergeant Tom Zavorsky, the other local veterans with me here today, especially thank you for helping us honor our brothers and sisters in arms who sacrificed their lives through duty to our great country. Thank you to State Representative Hogan, Megan Birch McMichael, and the Town of Stow Select Board, the citizens of Stow and surrounding towns for participating in this Memorial Day ceremony, honoring those military heroes who paid the ultimate sacrifice in order to protect our freedom. My thanks to all the scouting troops and volunteers that came out this weekend to place the flags on the graves of those heroes. Please give all our volunteers a round of applause. Thank you. Let me now ask Civil Air Patrol Major Ted Johnson to deliver an invocation.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Major Ted Johnson, former Civil Air Patrol commander of the Minuteman CAP Squadron, which was for many years meeting at Stow Minuteman Airport. CAP is the U.S. Air Force Auxiliary, and I'm honored to be asked to say a few words on this occasion. Although I did not serve in the military, I did receive a presidential appointment to serve on the Selective Service Commission for 4 years and was also Selective Service Appeals Board member. I'm a faculty member in the Heller School at Brandeis University, where I teach international relations, conflict resolution, coexistence, and peace building. Each year in Stow, we honor our service members who've served in every engagement undertaken by the U.S. military since the Revolutionary War. Shortly, we'll be naming and honoring those members, some of whose final resting places are here in this cemetery. As President Lincoln said at Gettysburg in 1863, it is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. Historically, it's worth noting that the first tribute to Union soldiers who died in the Civil War occurred on May 1st, 1865, where freed slaves came together in Charlestown, South Carolina, to pay tribute to these soldiers. At an event attended by over 10,000 people, it was reported that 3,000 African American students led the event by singing "John Brown's Body Lies a Moldering in the Grave" while holding arms of roses. Recently, on August 30, less than a year ago, 13 American military members died during the evacuation of Afghanistan from Karzai International Airport while attempting to return civilians and others to their homes or to freedom for the first time and ending a 20-year occupation of Afghanistan. Today it's important to say their names as recent casualties of Americans in battle for the truths and values we support and believe in and are willing to defend with our lives if necessary. Those heroes are Ryan Kinasis, 23, a Tennessee volunteer, Kareem Nowaki of Norco, California, Hunter Lopez, 22, Riverside, California, David Espinoza, who was 20, from Laredo, Texas, Jared Schmitz, who was 20, from Kansas City, Missouri, Max Choviak, from Milan, Ohio, Riley McCullum, a graduate of Jackson Hole High School and an expectant father, Johnny Rosario Picardo, 26, of Lawrence, Massachusetts, Dylan Merola, 20, from Rancho Cucamonga, California, Nicole Gee, from Sacramento, California, Darren Hoover, 31, from Salt Lake City, and Deegan Page, Omaha, Nebraska, and lastly, Humberto Sanchez, who was 22, from Indiana. I mention these brave service members who more than self their country loved and died most recently in the line of duty because they were there and put their lives on line. There will likely be historical and political debates over the reasons for our presence in Afghanistan, all falling into the categories of international law, morality, and politics. But these service members were not there to engage in those kinds of debates, which is often the work of professors and politicians, but were there to answer the call to duty. For that reason, they are our heroes and heroines and deserve our thanks and praise, especially today. In thinking about what I might say today, it occurred that much has already been said, and paraphrasing President Lincoln, what we say here is much less important than what they did for us, giving their last full measure of devotion. And the they in this moment are the names of the 13 most recent deceased members in Afghanistan. In 1915, John McCrae wrote In Flanders Field, which I'm sure many of you know and is worth recalling briefly. In Flanders Field, where poppies grow between the crosses row on row that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing, flies scarce ahead amid the guns below. We are the dead short days ago. We lived, felt, dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Field. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Field. In my closing words, I leave you with the words of Amanda Gorman, who is our 24-year-old National Poet Laureate, who on May 27th wrote in the New York Times, "Maybe everything hurts, our hearts shadowed and strange, but only when everything hurts, may everything change." Thank you for your kind attention, and thanks to our members of the military, and may God bless our troops, living and deceased.
Thank you, Major Johnson. Those were very, very thoughtful words. Now I'd like to introduce State Representative Hogan. Kate is a resident of Stow and a key advocate for legislation that supports veterans and their families. We strive to strengthen and improve services to our injured and our ill vets. Veterans rely on these services, and it's important to ensure that they're taken care of. With the support of people like Kate, those services are secured for our veterans. Kate, welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Colonel Monroe, to members of the Stow Cemetery Committee, the Stow Fire Department that have had quite a week. Thank you so much for protecting us as well. The Color Guard, elected officials and honored guests. I am delighted to be here today. Every year on Memorial Day, America pays homage to those in the armed forces who fought and died to protect our freedom. These are our heroes who didn't make it home. On Memorial Day, we also remember that these heroes and sheroes were fathers and husbands and mothers and wives, sons, daughters, brothers, sisters who answered a call to serve and defend their country. And we remember, too, Gold Star families whose sacrifice is almost too much to bear. These heroes and their families show us the true meaning of character, integrity, and courage. These brave men and women embody the best of our people since the fight for independence began. But we must always remember they were each cherished loved ones. And our fallen heroes and their families remain our responsibility as an American family. If we love our country, we must love and honor our heroes and care for their families. And it is Memorial Day that highlights our responsibility to our nation in sending our young men and women off to fight and die often far from home. As American citizens, do we value character and integrity above all else? Are we a people with the courage to reach across our differences, to fix what is broken and build what is needed for a better tomorrow? Let us take a moment to recognize that while there are issues that have created the illusion of a division, the truth is Americans share the common dream of living our lives in freedom and liberty, all made possible through the last measure of devotion of our fallen heroes in the armed forces. They are the soul of our nation. And yes, it is what they teach us about character, integrity, and courage that we are grateful for today. This is what we remember and will never forget. God bless our fallen heroes. God bless our veterans. God bless Stow and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And God bless America that has given us such heroes as these. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate, for taking the time out to spend with us today. I know you have a very busy day. Great words. Thank you so much. I will now place the wreath. The names of the Stow residents killed in action while serving their country will now be read by Harper Jackson and Maggie Braun. Harper?
French and Indian War, 1755 to 1763. Ephraim Brown, Ebenezer Gates, Abel Ray, Isaac Taylor, Stephen Houghton. Revolutionary War, 1775 to 1783. John Gordon, Benjamin Gates, Daniel Gates, Ephraim Gates, Stephen Hale.
Civil War, 1861 to 1865. Amusa Arnold, Winfield H. Benham, John Brown, John Alpheus Brown, Frank Burns, Thomas Cunningham, Edward Andrew Davidson, William Henry Dunlap, Amos S. Eastman, Samuel Hampton, James Nee, Albert Moore Doe Kingsbury, Dr. Paul Kittredge, Cornelius Long, Danielle Artemis Leverding, Matthew McCooley, Francis William Moore, Albany Nutting, George Whitmark Parks, Charles F. Perry, Luther Felton Reed, James Rye, Abraham Foster Rogers, George E. Simpson, Matthew Smith, Joseph Albert Swift, Owen Taylor, Albert Walcott, George Franklin Whitcomb, James Henry Whitcomb, Thomas Whiteman, Henry Windsor Wilder, George Willis.
World War I, 1917 to 1918. Frank Edward Doyle, Perry Wolcott Halleck, Charles Walter Penny, Richard Ernest Trumpold, Warren Wheeler Weatherby. World War II, 1941 to 1945. Jerome Donovan, Wilho Allen Pekala. Vietnam, 1964 to 1975. Richard Wagner Frank II.
Order. Hums. Happy Memorial Day. It seems like an odd phrase, doesn't it? On one hand, we're here remembering the loss of those brave souls who sacrificed their lives for the freedom of ours and others. And then we put the word happy in front of it. What is it that we're supposed to be happy about? That these brave men and women lost their lives to secure a future for us? I thought long and hard about this. I say it's all about one's perspective. And so, at the end of the day, I say it's okay to be grateful, thoughtful, thankful, and even happy on Memorial Day. I think that someone who loses their life for our country would want us to honor them and remember them on this day, but to ensure we enjoy the freedom that they fought so hard to protect. I'd like to focus a little bit on the idea of perspective today and on World War II. General George Patton was a colorful character, and he used colorful words in his speeches. Due to this, I'll have to paraphrase one of his quotes. But the gist of it is that the intention of war is not for one to die for their country, but for our enemy to die for their country instead. It wasn't the intent of the people whose names we read today to have died for their country. They were supposed to emerge victorious and come home, but that wasn't their fate. There's a saying that states that we actually die twice. The first time is when we stop breathing. The second time is when our name is spoken for the last time. For some of these names that we read here today, there are no more relatives alive who know and remember them. For many of them, this ceremony is the only one their name is spoken. During a previous parade, I told you the story about Cornelius Long and how he died fighting for our country. I had to do some research to figure out what battalion he was in, where he was stationed, how he died, and the battle that took place that day. For me, this brought life to a name. I took the name from being one-dimensional to a deeper meaning and understanding of its background and its experience. I understood a little bit more about Cornelius himself, and I encourage you to visit the graves of the fallen from your own families, to speak their name, tell your children something about them. Or you can pick a name from the list that we read here today, research it with your children, learn a little bit more about these heroes, and keep them alive through saying their name each year. While this list of names may seem long, especially on a very hot day or even a Memorial Day where it's freezing weather and snowing, which it's not, thank goodness, it's all about perspective. A list with only one name on it can seem too long, especially if that name is the name of a loved one. A few years back, I found myself standing on a cliff and looking down at a piece of land and the ocean out in front of me. I was overlooking the beaches of Normandy. It was an incredibly emotional moment for me, and still is today. My first thought when I saw the geography spread out before me was, dear God, how did they ever think they were going to survive, let alone take that beach? I cannot even imagine what was going through those brave men's minds on that dreadful day. The view I had was from the top of the cliffs, and they would need to scale those. The view they had was from the sea toward a small strip of sand and sheer cliffs with gunfire raining down upon them. When I think about their perspective, a line from Dante's Divine Comedy comes to mind. Even if you have not read this famous classic, you have probably heard the famous quote, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here." And yet, these brave heroes continued to get in their landing craft and storm the beach. And they took the beach, and the rest is history. But not without great loss. I proceeded from the beaches of Normandy over to a piece of land that the United States had purchased from France for a cemetery for the U.S. fallen soldiers. When I entered the cemetery, I was again awestruck by the view. Spanning out in front of me, as far as I could see, were white crosses. I looked to my left and to my right, and I had the same view. White crosses as far as I could see. If you don't know, there are nearly 9,400 white crosses in that cemetery. So I say to you, it's all about perspective. And while there are great casualties on the beaches of Normandy during D-Day, there were other horrendous places that our heroes lost their lives during World War II. On the opposite side of the world, there is a little island that's mostly rock with nothing growing on it. It's another site of a great battle. Authors James Bradley and Tom Powers wrote a book about this battle, and a great American named Clint Eastwood turned it into a movie. At the same time, however, he decided to create a second film regarding this battle from a completely opposite perspective, our enemy's perspective. The first movie title is Flag of Our Fathers. And if you haven't read the book, I encourage you to do so and let me know what you think of it. The other movie is titled Letters from Iwo Jima, and it represents the perspective of the Japanese soldiers who fought there. When it comes down to it, there's hardly a soldier that wants to be on a battlefield, taking the lives of others and potentially losing their own. Clausewitz defines war as an extension of politics. He defined war in this manner 190 years ago, and it still holds true today. We see it playing out in the Ukraine and Russia right now. The soldiers are pawns on a chessboard doing their part, but often are sacrificed for the strategic policies of their country's leadership. The United States has been having its own political war these last couple of years, and while at the same time it's been fighting the war on COVID. While civil war has not broken out in the U.S., it's certainly been a war of words. And we all know that words matter. They can make us angry and hurt. They can insult and cause pain and leave scars that take a lifetime to heal. They can last for many years. They can ruin friendships. They've been lost. Families have stopped talking to each other. And unfortunately, sometimes it comes down to what perspective you're coming from. I ask you to take the time to research and learn and contemplate your perspective and the perspective of honor of others, and be respectful. Regarding the COVID war, God willing, it seems like the worst is behind us. It has been 3 years since we conducted the Stow Memorial Day Parade. I'm overjoyed to see all of you out here today. We were told there was going to be a new normal, and that normal would include losing time-honored traditions such as the Memorial Day Parade. But now we're able to socialize again, gather in groups again, appreciate each other's company. So while today is about remembering those who lost their lives for our freedom, it is also about cherishing our freedom, cherishing our loved ones, cherishing our friends and neighbors, and gathering together to celebrate our society and each other. And most of all, our freedom. So may you all have a safe, grateful, and happy Memorial Day. Lincoln's Gettysburg Address will now be read by Miss Jenna Gale, an 8th grade student at the Hale Middle School.
The Gettysburg Address, delivered by President Abraham Lincoln on November 19, 1863, to commemorate the Civil War battle at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, where 51,000 Confederate and Union soldiers died in battle on the first 3 days of July 1863. 47 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those here who gave their lives so that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hollow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little know nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here to be dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
The national anthem will now be sung by Miss Veronica Wells, after which we'll have a moment of silence. Flight 10 hut. Present humps.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting through air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Quarter humps. At ease. Hill Middle School student Kirpal Riot will now read a poem called Somewhere Out There by Dr. Bill McDonald.
Somewhere out there today, in a land far, far away, a soldier rides patrol, knowing not what may unfold. He keeps watch as he rides over dangerous countryside. Roadside bomb could be hit, scary, but this soldier doesn't quit. Think about mom and dad, about the good times had. Stateside, how long here? Back to watching, a little fear. This was a good day to think and to pray. Strange that prayer is so right when there could be a firefight. Wheel back into base, tomorrow another ride to face. Convoy's done for the day, looks like rain's on its way. Nerve-wracking job, but boring too, but that's what soldiers do. So many over here, none alike, who have gladly joined this fight. Freedom has a high cost, lives given, the ultimate loss. That cost they willingly give, so freedom can can continue to live. So, we remember today all those who went away and gave their lives that we might live here and stay free. God bless America.
Select Board representatives, Ms. Megan Birch McMichael, will now say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Stow Select Board, I want to say a hearty thank you to Colonel Martha Monroe, the Stow Veterans Graves Committee Chair, and the Stow Veterans Graves Committee for organizing this year's Memorial Day Cemetery. As you may know, for the last 3 years, even though we were unable to march together in our town parade, this ceremony, a remembrance of those men and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country, still went on. That continuity is a testament to the town volunteers who made it happen. Today, we take a step forward in reinstating the full complement of our town's time-honored tradition with the Memorial Day Parade. And I'd like you to all give a round of applause and thank all of those who made this day happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, now let me please ask Major Johnson back up to deliver a benediction.
Let us be in an attitude of prayer. Gracious Spirit of the universe, on this Memorial Day, May 30, 2022, we remember and give gratitude and thanks for those who have given their lives in service to our country. We also remember those with long-term injuries, be they physical, mental, or spiritual. When the need was greatest, they stepped forward and did their duty to defend the freedoms that we enjoy and win the same for others. God, you yourself have taught us that no love is greater than that which gives one's self for another. These honored dead gave the most precious gift they had, life itself, for loved ones, neighbors, comrades, country, and for us. Help us to honor their memory by caring for the family members and friends they have left behind, by ensuring that their wounded comrades are properly cared for, by being watchful caretakers of the freedoms for which they gave their lives, and by demanding that no other young men or women follow them to a soldier's grave unless the reason is worthy and the cause is just. Holy One, help us to remember that freedom is not free. There are times when its cost is high and dear. Never let us forget those who paid so demanding a price to ensure that freedom would be our legacy. Though their names may fade with the passing of generations, may we never forget what they have done. Help us to be worthy of their sacrifice. Amen, and blessed be.
Will the participants now form back up so that we can march safely to the Stow Library Memorial for the second part of our ceremony, where we will place a wreath for the Revolutionary and World War II veterans and closing remarks.
Thank you for your service. Beautiful. Thank you for your service, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us down here. Will Tom Zavorsky now place the wreath for the Revolutionary War and the World War II veterans? Taps and echoes. Thank you all again for attending today, and may you have a very blessed day. Take care.